Boy, we need some technical training.
Okay. Welcome to Monday Night Therapy. You were supposed to do that too.
Oh, welcome to Monday Night Therapy.
I figured you were doing the entire intro, and then you were going to just start a rant, and I would just listen.
Well,
try it. Look,
you start all over again.
Try it now.
Try what now?
Okay. Welcome to Monday Night Therapy, where Todd the Disgusted is completely aghast and taken aback, and he's going to start the evening with a rant about the current state of college football.
Well, I suppose it kind of depends a little bit on perspective, though, John, because the way I figure it, by the end of this show tonight, people are going to think we are just a couple of bastard, grumpier old men than what we have been, or maybe just a couple of whiny little babies. I don't know how it's going to come across, but first of all, past, yeah.
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm going to start this off by asking you a question. Does the credibility of the College Football Playoff Committee matter?
Ultimately, no, because they're not accountable to anybody.
So that's it?
Well, you know what? So what? Their credibility? I mean, who are they beholden to?
That's the question, isn't it? I think if you looked at the TV now, if you looked at I thought about this on my walk today. What I do on my walk is I actually talk the entire time I'm walking the dog. And what I do is I have different applications for doing transcription and dictation, and I email myself my conversations that I have with myself. It's how I do a lot of my writing. But what I thought about was this. The credibility of the College Football Committee only accounts to the people they're beholden to, and that would be, it appears, the TV networks. Because if you looked at this and you said, which one would you probably draw better ratings, Michigan versus Florida State, Michigan versus Alabama, I think everybody would agree it's Alabama. And quite frankly, I want to see Michigan play Alabama, because so many times now in college football, we get to watch decent conference games, but we don't watch a lot of non-conference games. And I think that's a big problem with college football, because, Michigan versus Alabama should be a really great game. Michigan versus Florida State, I think, would have been a really great game, because I think Florida State has a championship defense. They're one of the best defenses of the nation. Extremely fast, good tackling. But I guess I look at it and I think, these guys did this. And when Michigan versus Alabama starts, none of us are going to care anymore. We're just going to watch the game. But I think the thing is that true? Does that hurt anybody at all? Other than Florida State? I mean, screw Florida State. It's just one team. Too bad, whatever. You get left out, you're screwed. For you people in the comments, I mean, does this hurt college football in your eyes at all? You're going to forget about it in a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is? That's the question.
Yeah, but I think what it comes down to, though, John, is, does it really matter? I mean, because, listen, the almighty television networks have ruled college football for years. Since
1982.
Yes. And so, ultimately they're the ones that, are calling the shots. And it might not be by direct influence on, committee members or something like that, but it's the dollars. It's the money that they control. And, the bottom line is that, people want to use whatever excuse is best fits their argument as far as, why were these decisions made? And, where is it written? And maybe I've missed this, but where is it written that the best 4 teams on Saturday are the ones that get in? Where's that written? I mean, because, it wasn't that long ago that there were some conferences that didn't have a championship game, and they wouldn't have played on Saturday. But that's ultimately what those people sitting in that conference room decided is, in our subjective opinion, the 4 best teams on Saturday were Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama. And that's bullshit, because otherwise we should have a 1-game season. There's no sense in playing 12 college football games if the ultimate goal is to get to the playoffs. There's no sense in playing 12 football games. You play on that Saturday and you have 12 people make a decision on who are the best 4 teams, and they get to go to the playoff, because in essence, that's what they've done. It's Florida State was the only undefeated Power 5 conference champion. They're the only ones that have ever been left out of a playoff. And a room full of people have said, well, that's because Texas is better than them. And that's because Alabama is better than them, even though both of those teams were beaten during the regular season.
Yeah.
That's garbage. That makes no sense. Bottom line is, there were 2 teams that should have been guaranteed a spot in the playoffs, and that's Michigan and that's Florida State. Michigan only because nobody's hammered down for them and booted their asses out of college football. But, under the current premise, they're the only ones that should be in there. So I think, every year there's a group of people that are upset because somebody is the number 5 or, whatever. They don't get in. But, since they started this whole process, I think this is the most disgusting decision that's been made since they've had the playoffs, since they've had the BCS. And how do you explain it? You can't explain it. We've read today, different people are threatening lawsuits. Okay, who are you going to sue? Who are you going to sue, and what's going to happen because of it? To be honest with you, what I think ought to happen, I think that Coach Norvell, I think the administration at Florida State, I think they ought to say, fuck you to the college football playoffs, the CFB, whatever the oversight organization is. They ought to say, fuck you. We're not going to play in the Orange Bowl. We're going to load our players up. We're going to go to Mayorkas. We're going to kick back in the sun and fun, and we're going to vacation, and we're going to get the hell away from this stuff. And let somebody figure out how you're going to have somebody else play Georgia in the goddamn Orange Bowl. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm not watching any games. I'm done with college football this year.
Wow.
I will not watch another college football game this year.
That's a bold statement. I don't think I could do that.
No. You know what? I've gone.
You do that? You didn't tell me that ahead of time. I would have been prepared for it. My heart went up to like 145 or something.
Well, and my accountability,
that's a really high bar.
My accountability partner will hold me to that. She's holding me to brushing my teeth every night. She will hold me to not watching any college football the remainder of this season.
Are you going to put her on and let her say yes?
No, I'm not going to put her on. No.
What are you going to talk to John about on Mondays if you don't want anyone football?
Now you just came up with this off the cuff, didn't you?
What? The not watching any college football?
Yeah.
No, I decided that Sunday when it came out. I said, "Fuck it, I'm not watching any more college football." That's bullshit. It's just absolute garbage. What's happened?
I don't think.
And I'm not a Florida State fan. I'm not a Florida State guy.
Right. Here's the here. Paul Dallin says FSU karma. It took 30 years, but here we are. Fuck them. This is in reference to. Come on, Todd.
Well,
it's in reference to the 1994 Florida State Nebraska game.
Because our kicker yanked a field goal?
No, because the officiating was so one-fucking excited.
Sure it was. And damn it, Paul, I was going to insist we talk about volleyball tonight. In fact, I'm willing to shut John down to talk about volleyball tonight. And then you got to throw that out of it.
Volleyball will be playing Georgia Tech Thursday at like 1 or 2 p.m. because that's where ESPN decided to put them. I think ESPN for me is just, they're puppet boys are parroting the same stuff. When they came out, Boo Corrigan, who is the head of the college football committee, said that we had decided that without their starting quarterback, Florida State is a different team than the one that played all year. And which I think is just, I don't know, it's a cheap out. But now you have all these ESPN personalities parroting the same bullshit, and including Kirk Herbstreit. And I don't mind Kirk Herbstreit as a game announcer, but I just once I'd like one of these people to come out and just be honest and say this was about money, because it's about fucking money. They're not going to leave the SEC out of a playoff. And I think before this got done, everybody was looking at this and going, are they going to actually leave the SEC out? Because every other conference has been left out at some point. Every other conference had to go through are we going to get left out shit? And no, apparently the SEC can't be left out because ESPN owns this stuff. There's been some bashing. If you remember that they had the alliance, right, where it was the ACC, the Pac-12, and the Big Ten all got together and they had the alliance, and they weren't going to what the purpose of that was, they were not going to let ESPN extend the college football playoff contract because they didn't want ESPN owning everything. They wanted that opened up for other bidding. Now, the honest to God truth is Kevin Warren played the other two commissioners, and the Pac-12 got screwed, and they're done as a conference, probably in their best year in very, very many years. And the ACC is kind of like a limp something. Everybody's like, is FSU going to, who wants out of the ACC? Where are they going to go? What's the value? So, but I think you look back and you look at all this stuff, and it's, I don't know, it's just ESPN having way too much power over a lot of this stuff. And maybe, I don't know, this is a direction maybe it's always been this way. Maybe it's been this lot for a long time.
Well, sure,
here's the problem.
You don't have any college football games kick off at 1 o'clock anymore. That was the standard kickoff time for years and years and years, not centuries, decades. And no, television decided we're going to go at 11 o'clock so we can go again at 2:30. TV has run it for years. And well, we're going to talk about volleyball. I'm going to, not now, but we're going to chunk some volleyball time here tonight, and we'll talk about the television decisions that have been made with that as well.
Okay. 111 Jimmy says the crying man, and I assume we're crying about this. Yeah, I think it's because I think it's partially because I wonder about the state of college football, and that's kind of what this show should be about. But here's the thing. Casual fans have already shut all this stuff off. They don't give a shit about the portal. They don't give a shit about NIL. They don't really give a shit about the college football playoff committee. Casual fans can just turn this stuff on and off. Hardcore college football fans, that's who I'm worried about. And I tell you this. This is exactly what I'm worried about. And I'll make a comparison. Amazon did the Rings of Power. Okay? If you're a Lord of the Rings fan or a Tolkien fan, you knew that what they did is they rewrote the entire canon. They rewrite the entire story to whatever the fuck they wanted to write it to be. And what they did was all the hardcore Tolkien fans looked at that and went, you literally took the story that the guy who invented the fantasy genre created and shit it down a toilet. And all the hardcore fans went away, and you spent like $1 billion created this thing that most people didn't even watch because you shit on the hardcore fans first. And that's what I wonder about. Where is college football going with this?
I believe I'm kind of with you there, John.
Are the hardcore fans going to go away because they're tired of the portal, they're tired of NIL, and they're tired of a lack of credibility with a college football committee? Or do we care? Or the casual fans going to be so many, they're going to be able to sell, I don't know, shitty perfume commercials with Johnny Depp to everybody, that's the question I have for everybody. Is this going to matter?
I think it's a legitimate question, and part of me says, I think there are some hardcore football fans that have had enough, that really have had enough. But then again, like 111 Jimmy says, it'll be fixed next year. Got to wait. Well, I seem to think Anonymous also comes up. It'll be fixed next year, just like it's fixed most years, as in
Yeah.
rigged. 12-team playoff is not going to fix the problem because you got team 13. Okay. You got team 13. And we all know what's going to happen once they extend it next year. The two big conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten, are going to have more teams in the playoff than anybody else is. That's why everybody's been positioning themselves the last few years to get in one of those two conferences. So it's far from fixed.
Okay. Okay. Fred Sacco says we'll get through some comments you guys said earlier. Fred Sacco says Free Shoes U got screwed because they didn't lie on their injury report, not having their starting quarterback was held against them. Ridiculous. That's true. On Asawar Sajid says, if Nebraska was in FSU's position, do you think we would have made the top four, Nebraska being a blue program? Not if we were up against the SEC.
No way. We're not any more blue than FSU is.
Yeah. Linda Wilkins, ESPN owns the SEC channel, and they were going to have an SEC team in the playoffs. End of conversation. That's true. We'll go with something lighter. John's office is very festive. My wife did this. It's because she loves Christmas and she takes care of me, and it is very nice. I like it. I was very thankful she did this, and there you go. I wanted to give her credit. Paul also gives us a $9.90 super chat for $10. And then let's go with, let's see, Fred Sacco, sad day today. Dion's fiance made like one of his toes and left. Did you hear that?
That his toes left?
No, his apparently his longtime fiance has left.
Yeah, like a 9-year relationship with this guy.
Yeah, apparently, along with coaches and his tight end and
everybody's leaving Dion.
Colt Bundy says, is Gabriel from Oklahoma actually hitting the portal? Yes, it appears so.
It appears
along with the one that shocked me was come on, McCord. What's his first name?
McCord from Ohio State.
Yeah. I mean, he was their starting quarterback. Well, Dylan Gabriel was too.
Yeah.
I think they're out there, they're out there hunting for money.
Yeah, and I think go ahead.
Minnie says maybe we should talk about something less exasperating because we all know rules that we thought existed are only guidelines if you're willing to pay. That's a very good comment.
Well, I think it is too, unless we can kind of transition a little bit to
Paul Dallin comes in with, John, show me on the Scott Frost doll where the BCS committee hurt you. Paul, I threw my Scott Frost dolls and everything else related to that away. Okay. I burned them in ritual sacrifice, so I can't do that anymore. Now, I might be able to find my Kevin Warren doll in the garage, and we can do that later on. Okay, go ahead, Todd.
Well, obviously, the portal is open, and a bunch of quarterbacks have already jumped in there. I like a comment that you made today, John, on Slack, where what's the deal? Every big name quarterback is going to jump in the portal whenever they have an opportunity to maximize their dollars. You've got some big names that have gotten in there, at least a couple of them. I don't know that it's going to get to that extent, but the word that we're hearing out of Lincoln, certainly the Nebraska coaches allegedly have made some contact with some portal quarterbacks. I don't know what's credible and what's not, so I'm not going to start throwing names around. But it does appear like they will. But Matt Rule has made it very, very clear that he's not in this business to pay $1 million, $2 million to bring in a quarterback. And here's something that I heard earlier today that makes a lot of sense to me. if we bring in the best quarterback that's available, hypothetically, if Nebraska gets the best one, is the rest of the team on offense, is the rest of the offense at a level where bringing in that best quarterback is going to result in 9 or 10 wins?
I don't think they should go out and get like a McCord or a Dylan Gabriel quarterback. I think they should spread that around a little. I would rather got a decent quarterback and then spent some money on a left tackle.
Well, that's kind of the point, John. I'm not
Yeah.
sure that the rest of the offense has the talent and the depth to be a 9 or a 10 win team, which if you're going to spend $1 million or $2 million, I'm not sure that you can settle for any less than 9 or 10 wins. And I don't think a quarterback can pull what we have to that level by themselves. I think that there is more work to be done in developing that offense. We aren't a quarterback away from the playoffs. We are more than a quarterback away. More than a quarterback away. And kind of taking a quick glance up here at the notes, Rick Tagg says, "Is that Spotted Cow beer you're drinking?" Why, yes, it is. Wisconsin's finest spotted beer from New Glarus.
Okay. Well, I was supposed to pick up the slack there, wasn't I?
Well, yeah. Yeah, we got a little while to go yet.
Yeah, we need some wide receivers. I think we have some young wide receivers. You know what? Do we need wide receivers? We have Malachi Coleman, Jaden Doss. We have those two kids coming in from Omaha, Bellevue, is it? That are like highly ranked highly ranked receivers. We need some experienced receivers, maybe one or two of them. I think we need at least a couple offensive linemen. Those are going to be hard to find. A good two quarterbacks. One quarterback that has a decent amount of experience and one quarterback that maybe has a lot of years of eligibility left.
I think it makes sense to get another running back too, but let's not gloss over the fact that we were down to our fourth string running back, and we've got running backs that have had injury issues. Both Ramir and Gabe Irvin coming back. They both have been beat up pretty good. So it might not hurt to bring in another running back.
Oh my God. I got stuck reading the comments. Cam Ward is one of the guys that people are talking about.
Yeah, I don't think Cam Ward's coming to Nebraska.
That guy had 14 fumbles last year.
Yeah,
he had 4 fumbles in one game. I mean, he's a good fit for Nebraska, right? If you look at it from that perspective, but I've seen people mention his name, and I'm like, no.
Well, Roger Moore says, any substance to the word of Howard from K-State. Rumor has it that Nebraska's reached out to him. Rumor has it that Lincoln Riley's reached out to him. I'm not sure that Will Howard, is at the top of the top tier of quarterbacks. He's either probably kind of at the end of the top tier, maybe at the top of the second tier. I don't know where you put Will Howard. I think Will Howard's a good quarterback. I think he'd be a good quarterback for Nebraska. But, this is going to be silly season. They've got basically 30 days, when all of this stuff is going to get settled. And who knows? Who knows what's going to happen when it all shakes out. But I personally think Will Howard would benefit Nebraska.
Okay, let's say, we'll get to that. Okay, you did this substance. Anonymous says offensive line as it stands now have over 150 starts going into next year. 1995 offensive line had 17. They did, but you know what? Nobody really expected. We lost a lot of guys in 94 to 95, and nobody expected that 95 team to be anywhere close to as great as they were. But that was a testament to the fact that linemen stuck around and they didn't play until they were normally juniors or seniors at a minimum.
That's what I was going to say. We have about the same experience in terms of age and grade, if you will, with those 150 starts compared to those 17.
Vince Watson says, how do we fit all these portal wants in the scholarship numbers when they are already over? Well, you have to get to 85 by fall camp, I believe it is. Maybe
true.
there's something in between there where there has to be a measurement. But I mean, basically what you do is, it depends on what you want to do. You could do things like Deion Sanders does and stand up in front of your team and say, well, some of you need to leave and I'm going to have a list of names and you're going to come to talk to me and I'll tell you whether or not you're still on the team, and just flat out say, you're not going to be here anymore, get out, which I think is a really shitty way to handle people. I don't think it builds any chemistry. And quite frankly, that's one of the problems I think Deion Sanders is going to have in building the college football team, is he didn't really have any loyalty to the players that were there. Why should anybody show him any whatsoever going forward? And the other way that you handle that is you basically go to each one of them and say, here's where we think you are. If you want to stay here, just realize that you're going to probably put in a shit ton of work and not see the field, or you're going to spend next year on the scout team. And I think actually, Todd, maybe it was you. I remember we were talking about baseball and how I think when Mike Anderson, somebody took over from Mike Anderson and when he got fired, and they have like 45 baseball players. And I think you were the one that said this stuff always works itself out in terms of how they had to get down to their scholarship and roster numbers. But it always does. Players know where they're going to, if you're honest with them and you treat them with respect and like decent human beings, they know where they're going to be and what they're going to do. I mean, I'll be at 18 years old, even if I had a Division I football player's body and athleticism, I don't think I would have ever had the discipline to go through what it takes to be a football player, even show up. The amount of weightlifting, the amount of practice, the amount of learning a playbook, the amount of discipline to show up at meetings on time. I could have never done that. So you really have to look at it and go, maybe I should just go study engineering and not be a football player anymore. I mean, that's how it's going to work out.
Well, but
that was a long answer.
Matt Rule has said publicly that he's not going to run a program where they run players off. That being said, he's going to have honest conversations, and they did that last week. Position coaches had their one-on-ones, and Matt Rule met with every player on the team. And I'm sure that they made it very clear what they see as their potential for playing. And, when you're honest with players and give them the information that you think that they need to make a decision, those that want playing time that aren't going to get it in Nebraska, they are going to move on. We have not seen Jeff Sims enter the portal yet. And most people believe that he's going to. The only one that we have seen, well, now I'm drawing a blank. We had somebody jump in there today.
Applegate?
Applegate, yeah. He got in there today. And I'm sure that's because during his conversation, it was pretty much made clear what his opportunities were going to be to play. And he's fairly down the depth chart.
All right. Should we take here we go. Volleyball.
Well, Linda, are you going to jump straight to this? Or are you going to talk volleyball? Well, we can go to this.
Linda Wilkins says, thoughts on Whitney Lowenstein entering the transfer portal. She is going to Long Beach.
Has she committed to Long Beach?
I don't know. I haven't seen that.
Well, Long Beach would make sense. Long Beach State would make sense, since the former assistant is running the program out at Long Beach.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Whitney Lowenstein, she had an incredible season last year. I mean, she arguably was the MVP of the Nebraska volleyball team last year. And then, it shocked the fan base that she stepped aside. I don't think it was too much of a surprise to the team. because it wasn't long after that she made that decision that Coach Cook grabbed Merritt Beeson out of the portal. And so I think it was something they were aware of. What the media shared and what was released to the media was that, she had not had time to deal with the loss of her dad, who had passed away months earlier. Division I college athletes are incredibly busy, challenged people. And, when you have a traumatic experience in your life, some people deal with it differently. But, what we were led to believe as fans was that she really needed time with family for her own mental well-being. And so she stepped away from the volleyball program. And now apparently she has a desire to play once again. And honestly, she doesn't have a spot on Nebraska's team. Merritt Beeson arguably is the NCAA Volleyball Player of the Year, and she's got another season. And when you look at the talent that is on that volleyball team this year, despite how strong Whitney is, there's not a place for her. Now, there are some other rumors going around. I'm not going to get into that because I have no proof about perhaps some other reasons why she didn't play this last season. So she made the choice to step away, but it sounds like now things are heading in the direction she wants them to, and she's looking for a new opportunity. Long Beach State would be a good place. I'm glad it's Long Beach State. I would not want to see her at Texas, and I don't want to see her at Wisconsin.
Right.
Stay away from Texas, stay away from Wisconsin. Go out and play for Coach Hildebrandt out in Long Beach.
I will bring up one subject that nobody has mentioned at all. So Creighton beat the shit out of us. That was disappointing. I know nobody has mentioned men's basketball at all. I guess I'm not that surprised at it. I watched the game. I'm trying to pay attention to the men's basketball team. Nobody asked. I don't know if anybody cares. Creighton did beat the shit out of us. They hit gobs and gobs and gobs of threes. And Nebraska hit almost like 0 threes. And it was just really, I think the players in the second half of that game, Creighton knew that they were hot and on fire. Nebraska knew they weren't even close to being cold, so that's just how the game goes. We got one of the things that bothered me is this. We don't get any attention at our game threads at CornNation about men's basketball. So they're pretty empty. But then when we do an article, people will come in and make all sorts of negative comments about the men's basketball program. And it always has bothered me. This is the beginning of the season. We haven't even hit conference play. Let the season play out. I think we have a lot of decent players. They look better than they have in the past. They played a number 15 team, and that was a rivalry game. Things got away from them. These things happen in basketball. That's just, even the best teams out there have shit nights and get blown up. Purdue, number 1 Purdue, lost at Northwestern for there to begin the Big Ten season. So I don't think that's the end of Purdue's season. That will end to another 16 seed when they start the tourney. But, give the men's basketball program some grace and just see what happens with them. Well, Paul Dalen says this back. Nothing went right for Nebraska. Nothing went wrong for Creighton. Neither is true performance level. And that's all. That's pretty much the wrap on the Creighton Nebraska basketball game. So we'll see what happens. Now it's your turn, Todd.
Well, I didn't pay any attention to the Creighton Nebraska basketball game.
Well, you were supposed to take us somewhere else.
Okay, so
wrestling. How does wrestling doing?
Wrestling got second out at Las Vegas at the Cliff Keen Invite. They got second to Iowa State. They had two champions, Ridge Lovett and Peyton Robb. Peyton Robb, who's come back from one of the most devastating injuries an individual could have with that infection that he had in his leg last year. So they both won it. Couple other wrestlers, Brock Hardy did not wrestle up to his ability at all, so it was kind of frustrating for him. Lenny Pinto had a good tournament, but no, they were second in probably the second toughest regular season tournament that exists in Division I. So a good day for the wrestling team. One of the things that we said last week, or that I challenged people to think about, was when we reflect a little bit on this season. I know that we've dealt with the news, and we can talk. I want to talk a little bit more about what's coming ahead here towards the end of the show. But when we look now, when we take a step and look at the Nebraska football season, can we call this year a success? Can we call this season a success? And if so, why? If not, why? I guess
the easy thing is we were 5-3, and we had 4 chances to win one more game and get to a bowl game and get that monkey off our back. And it's really hard to call the season a success because we didn't get to a bowl game. And I think I don't know if that was the goal for the team, but it certainly was my goal. On the other hand, if you're realistic about where Nebraska was, I think the offense showed that there was not, especially with the injuries, we're not a good football team. We didn't start the season being a good football team. Our defense is good. And, I think that's hope for the future, but the offense was so historically bad that they couldn't overcome. I mean, what, the 83 turnovers, 285, 7,000 turnovers. My God. So I don't know. Mays, I wouldn't call it a success, but a step in the right direction.
I kind of like that. I kind of like that because, I've not been the guy who wanted to put a number of wins, on the season to determine whether or not it was a success. I tried to stay away from that as much as I could. I'm disappointed. But there were a lot of good steps that were taken, and I am optimistic about going forward. And I think we have the right people in place. So from that perspective, I am optimistic. I'm excited to see, what happens in the spring, bringing in a huge recruiting class. So they won't all be on campus, but some of them will. So, I can go through my football withdrawal and be ready, when spring rolls around and start getting geared up a little bit more for it.
Okay. You guys might have seen, sorry. If you've ever heard of a thunderclap headache is something that starts in front of your head and it just runs through your head in about 30 to 45 seconds. It's very painful. I get them because of my freaking brain injury, and God, they are terrible. All right. I did a video. That we do survey articles at CornNation. We do them throughout the year. I did a number of surveys this year, and I think it's fun. I do not know the number of people that respond to this survey. I could go probably ask, but it is conducted by SB Nation, and they do have national surveys, and each site has their own surveys. This is the question I asked: is Nebraska's 2023 Nebraska season a success or a failure? And 58% said success. So, I think for all the complaining that we do, is 58 to 42 is that a landslide or just a vast majority, or is it just a majority? What do you think?
That's a majority, and that means that more people think it was a success than those who would classify it as a failure. But I think that also means it's tempered. It's tempered a bit. I will go back and say it's a step in the right direction. I'm not happy with the way that the season ended. And it's only because we won 3 games in a row, then we lost the last 4. But before we even played those games, at least my opinion was, and I think a lot of people had the opinion, we could win any of them.
Right.
Those last 7 games, we could have won any of them. We could have also obviously lost any of them. But it's frustrating that we dropped those final 4, especially as close as the games were. And close losses suck. They really do. And so from that standpoint, it's discouraging. But I'm disappointed, but I'm not going to sit here and say it was definitely not a failure of a season.
Roger Moore asked, does volleyball have nil? Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
All sports have nil. Nil was the reason why Nebraska lost 2 of their better players to Texas, and Texas won a national title with them. The Hawaiian girl, Kiona, and then the
Otani, yeah.
other, yeah,
and
then
Caffey.
Yeah.
Did
all sports have nil.
Well, okay, but I don't think they went to Texas because of nil. They were going to have playing time. They were not going to have the same playing time at Nebraska as no. They saw the writing on the wall, and they would not have had the same playing time had they stayed at Nebraska.
Well, my little birds say that they were
sources.
Purchased. Well, yes. Texas basically bought them.
Well,
so and that's the thing about college.
Lexi Rodriguez is one of she's got nil money coming from Adidas, and she's also the only female athlete that is sponsored by some sports card company out there. So Lexi Rodriguez is doing pretty good with nil money.
Fred Sacco, is it official? Tony White is locked in now
for today.
Well, yes, he is. He signed a new contract worth $1.6 million. I don't think you sign. Well, put it this way. I think if you're Bobby Petrino, you sign a contract for $1.6 million and maybe you're gone in a week. I think Tony White is probably a guy who, if he's in this coaching staff structure, he has some level of integrity, and you don't just sign a contract and walk away a few weeks later just because. You kind of making a commitment to your head coach. By the way, Matt Rule really pushed the idea that Tony White should be a head coach somewhere. And I want to know what people think of that, because I looked at that and I thought, how many of you would love your boss if he advocated you for promotion? I mean, if your boss literally said to other bosses, this guy's a great guy, you should hire him. Number one, you'd probably be going, well, he's such a great guy, we should give him a hell of a raise. And, pizza parties every week, and maybe a car, a golf club membership or something, and PS5. That's what he wants, a new PS5. But I mean, how many people advocate for promotions for the people that are working under them? And I think what that does, it's really not just classy by Matt Rule, but it's a smart move, because people like that attract other people to them that are good, that also want to be part of that structure. So I think that was I think it was a very good move by Matt Rule to be doing that stuff. I need to breathe. You need to talk.
Well, we'll throw this one up here. I honestly think we can land a top tier quarterback out of the portal due to the fact that we have a defense that will give the ball to our offense a lot, and it's less pressure on the quarterback. Yeah, I mean, perhaps. I just don't think that a top tier quarterback is going to take the current offense we have and win 9 or 10 games. I think we need a lot more. And if you're going to pay the dollars for a top tier quarterback, I think your payoff had better be 9 or 10 wins if you're gonna spend that kind of money. But maybe we can, and maybe that will happen. I want to make sure that he is not picking himself up off the ground all the time, that he has receivers that can separate themselves from the defenders, and that there's at least a couple of running backs that can take the pressure off the passing game. So, perhaps.
Anonymous says in 2 years, Brock Purdy wins the Super Bowl and Chuba Purdy wins the national title.
Brock Purdy's going to win the Super Bowl this year and the MVP.
Boy, they beat the crap out of Philadelphia.
That was a butt kicking. That was.
I was shocked by that.
I was shocked by that as well. I mean, they laid the wood to Philly. And, I know that Brock Purdy had, 3 games this year where, a lot of people were kind of the sense that, flash in the pan, maybe they shouldn't be starting him. And wow, he has really come on.
Charles Hellett says already drinking off-season Kool-Aid. I'm assuming that applies to him. I notice on Twitter a lot of people are doing that. I honestly find it annoying. I really do. I'm still like, Charles Hellett also says we should change it from nil to knee. Then we can say knee until they appease us. I assume this is a Monty Python joke about the knights who say knee, and I just wanted to bring that up because any chance you get for Monty Python you should use.
Fred Sacco says Bobby Petrino signs a contract, then wrecks a moped, and then Linda pops in with, but Bobby has a clause in his contract that says no motorcycles.
That is phenomenal.
That just the SEC, Bobby Petrino leaves, he's run out of Arkansas, a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. And, he's out of football. And then he goes like to Arkansas State or someplace, and he has to claw himself back up, to get back into it. An offensive coordinator this past year. And now Arkansas is going to bring him back to be the offensive coordinator there. And as well as I do that if Sam Pittman bails this year, or if they get tired of Sam Pittman, Bobby Petrino will once again be the head football coach at Arkansas. And then he'll be free to wreck a motorcycle again with whatever hottie he wants to have riding.
Damn well that happened because somebody with a shit ton of money said, I want Bobby Petrino hired back here as the offensive
probably Mr. Hunt.
That's amazing. It's just unbelievable.
Unreal. Unreal.
Here you go. Linda Wilkins says, Todd, you have no idea the shit that Bobby left here in Arkansas. He left a lot of hell everywhere he went because what Bobby Petrino does when he's the head coach is he recruits offensive players. He doesn't recruit any defense whatsoever. And I mean, he's left programs in trash positions wherever he's gone. So to hire him as you got to be some kind of lunatic.
Bobby Petrino serves one master, and that is Bobby Petrino.
Yeah.
And he is not a program builder. He's a Bobby Petrino builder. That's it.
Okay. Brian Bauer, it's going to take more than a shrubbery to sign a quarterback out of the portal. Fred Sacco, Sam Pittman looks like Buford T. Pusser the later years. Sam Pittman, the guy's got to feel like, a dead man walking kind of. I mean, you were forced to hire Bobby Petrino. I can't believe he made that decision himself. So that is just, to be that coach in that position and you still want to get paid without resigning. That's just terrible position to be in.
Had that work out for Mike Riley to have to hire Bob Diaco.
Yeah. All right. What else we got, Todd?
Here's one I want to throw up, and we're going to have to rely on Anonymous here. He says, Grand Canyon U is starting up a football program and hiring Scott Frost. The Scott Frost thing I'm going to put over here, but is Grand Canyon going to start a football program? I mean, is there truth to that, Anonymous, or is this? Are you just pulling our leg on this? I'm just kind of curious, but
You know, the problem is that when stuff happens where Bobby Petrino gets hired back into Arkansas, you don't know what's really joking and what's really the truth. That's the problem.
yeah.
I'm looking it up.
Well,
hey,
I don't know. I
have to show something. Here you go. Wait, I don't know what I just did. I clicked on the wrong thing. Take a look at this and let me know what you think in the comments section. These are two designs for the Secure Your Balls t-shirt. The difference between these two shirts being a red black background oh my God, I'm having a hell of a night. A white background versus a black background. Let me know your thoughts on either of these designs about securing your balls. And well, I think they do have I don't know. There's too much speculation. I'm not looking at that. I should prepare.
Well,
oh, God. This thing, okay. Now nothing is clicking properly. There we go. The response time is beat up.
Well, Paul Dalen, and this is one of the reasons that I asked the question. Paul Dalen comes in and says Grand Canyon University got to pay off that $50 million Department of Ed done for financial aid fraud. Grand Canyon University is in a lot of trouble because of fraud, and so that's one of the reasons I was asking. Grand Canyon is one of those. It's kind of like Liberty University, where philosophy doesn't necessarily line up with practice. So I'll just stop there, and we can move on.
Dion Pryor asks, "You have CornNation underpants?" Well, that's kind of personal. I can sell underpants in the store, but I have not put any of them up because I just thought, who in the hell wants to buy CornNation underpants?
Well, Dion might be interested. So,
well, that's true. That's true. Okay. What else we got going on? Anything? We're kind of coming down to the end of it.
Well, no, I am excited about where the volleyball team is, and we're circling back to volleyball. They do play at 1:00 on Thursday against Georgia Tech. It's certainly a game that they'll be favored in. It's on the home court, but here's the thing that bothers me about this is that Nebraska is the number 1 seeded team in the tournament, and they're playing a 1:00 game on Thursday. Schedule them at 7:00 on Thursday. They're the number 1 ranked team. And that just irritates the dickens out of me because, I haven't seen the rest of the schedule and who gets the prime time slot, but your number 1 ranked team should be playing an evening game, not 1:00. Of course, they know how dedicated Nebraska fans are. And so Nebraska will sell out Devaney at 1:00 on Thursday. It will be another sellout for a volleyball game. And that will look good at 1:00 in the afternoon when 15 people in New Jersey are watching the damn game. So I don't know. And then if they win, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, if they win,
they put the first 2 rounds on ESPN Plus, and I wonder if that's Saturday night. Weren't we playing Mizzou Saturday night? They were showing lacrosse instead of volleyball on ESPN2, and I kind of looked at that and I thought, are they trying to sell more ESPN Plus subscriptions? Are they? What do you think of that?
Exactly, except for the 2 games Texas played, and they were covered on the Longhorn Network.
Oh,
so you could watch Texas if you had Longhorn Network, and that's the same bullshit with the fact that ESPN owns the SEC network. There's there's more at play here with some of these decisions that are being made as far as who's getting into the college football playoffs and when certain teams get scheduled to play. So, that part of it is frustrating as all hell.
Somebody mentioned this is a weird thing to me. Husker Chuck has said, is it legal to carry the football inside your jersey? Tougher to strip away. Yes, it is. Actually, it's illegal. There is a specific rule about this. And here's the weird thing about this. I am still trying to get my crap together for the college football history videos. But today I was reading about the fact that in 1903, Pop Warner at the Carlisle Indian School actually played against Syracuse, where he hit during a kickoff. He had a player who had an elastic band inside his jersey, and they shoved the ball. They all came together and they shoved the ball up his back, and he ran with his arms out like this to make it look like he didn't have the ball. And the other players took whatever helmets. Now, 1903, there are very few helmets. They took stuff and put it in their backs also, so nobody could tell where they had the ball. And it literally was a hidden ball play in 1903. And there was a rule 8 years later made that no, you cannot do that. So it is specifically illegal to hide a ball inside your jersey.
I got a funny story for you, kind of like that. My dad played high school football back in the 50s. He was a quarterback. And for one season in Iowa high school football, they used a white football with black stripes on it. A white football with black stripes. So what do you suppose every school in the state of Iowa purchased for that season? They purchased a set of white uniforms with black numbers. Now, it just happened my dad's school's colors, their school colors were black and red. Well, their white jersey already had black numbers on it. But he said there's schools that were orange and purple and blue, and they all bought white jerseys with black numbers to try to camouflage that white football.
The weird things we do and then the next thing you know, some school that probably is the first team to hit 1,000 wins goes out and builds an entire spy network just because, well, nobody said they couldn't, I guess.
Yeah.
Football is so weird. Okay, you know what? We're at 58 minutes. I'm struggling a bit. We're going to go ahead and we're going to end like 1 minute early just because do you have any final thoughts, Todd? You're not going to watch any more football, huh?
Nope. I'm done with college football this year. I'm done. I'll tell you what, I might watch some Division III. Might watch a little bit of FCS. If it's on ESPN, no, I won't. But I might go. It's wrestling season. I can go watch wrestling 4 nights a week now, and on Saturday. So,
well, I guess the off season's coming. Maybe we should come up with a list of movies we're going to watch together.
Yeah. John, you and I haven't cuddled up for a movie in quite a few years, John. So.
No, we haven't. Okay. I think that's a good end to the show. There you go. Good night, Todd.
Good night, John. Young Guns.